A New York Knick reached a milestone, but it's not who you think. All that and much more on the Knicks Digest. What's up, guys? It's your boy Dariel from Knicks Digest, and I want to hop right into today's video. So recently, Coach Tom Thibodeau actually became the sixth person in Knicks history to coach 300 games. And if you take a look at this list right in front of us, we got Pat Riley, we got Jeff Van Gundy, we got Red Holtzman, Mike D'Antoni, Mike Woodson. We got some Knick legends in the building. But when I saw that post, it got me to think about Coach Tibbs' legacy with the New York Knicks. And I started to think, where is he going to lie within the New York Knicks coaching history? Now, in a lot of videos that Chris and I have recorded, I keep saying that our history as far as players is not great. But as far as coaches, it's not terrible. Jeff Van Gundy, as far as like the more recent Knick years, is probably looked at as the best Knick coach that we've had. But I think the number one coach is obviously Red Holtzman, who was able to lead the Knicks to 2 championships in the 70s, early 70s. But yeah, Coach Tibbs, I just started thinking about his legacy with the Knicks, and I just wanted to see where he ranked against other coaches. So just a quick little breakdown. Coach Tibbs was actually announced as the new New York Knicks head coach in July of 2020. And then that season, the 2020-2021 season, was the shortened season because of COVID, where Coach Tibbs led the Knicks to the first round playoff exit by the Atlanta Hawks. And that was a 4-5 matchup. The Knicks were favorited, and we ended up losing in 5 games, which is definitely an upset. And Julius Randle had a breakout season, but in the playoffs, the Atlanta Hawks, their defensive scheme was, we're going to hound Julius Randle. We're going to make him not be able to beat us. And they made other players try to beat the Atlanta Hawks. And in that series, Derrick Rose stepped up. Alec Burks was on the team, the first stint of the Knicks. Alec Burks was on the team. I believe Nerlens Noel was on that team as well. And whenever you have an older Derrick Rose being the best player on your team, I don't know how far you can go. But as far as Coach Tibbs' first season with the New York Knicks leading us into the playoffs, that was a success. But a first round upset against the Atlanta Hawks is not much of a success. Going into the playoffs, there was a lot of hype about the New York Knicks, about we haven't been to the playoffs in a while, and we thought we had a good team. And Coach Tibbs, who was and is still regarded as one of the better coaches in the league, just the talk around the town was that we were going to beat the Atlanta Hawks. Me personally, I had the Knicks winning in 6, but we just ended up getting embarrassed. So that's definitely a negative notch that Coach Tibbs has on his belt. The following season, we actually didn't even make the playoffs, and that was a weird season because Julius Randle was having this thing against the fans where I remember it was one game where Randle just finished scoring, and the next thing you know, he's pointing his thumbs down towards the crowd because the crowd was cheering him on. So there was like this weird Randle fans connection thing going on, but we didn't make the playoffs. So obviously that's a negative notch on Coach Tibbs' belt. And then the following season was the Jalen Brunson season. So Jalen Brunson came to the Knicks. We ended up getting to the playoffs, and we beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games, which a lot of people did not expect, me included. I actually had the Knicks beating the Cleveland Cavaliers in 7 games, but to my surprise, they beat them in 5. So was that a Coach Tibbs thing? Was that his coaching, defensive schemes? Or was that a Jalen Brunson hype and we have this new energy and new aura to us, and Jalen Brunson being one of the better, if not the best point guard that we've had since Walt Clyde Frazier? Like, was it a little bit of that? It could have been a mixture of the two. But Coach Tibbs, being the coach of that team, he's going to get the praise for leading the Knicks to a first-round playoff victory. And now we're here. Now, in this season, the Knicks right now are in the 4th seed in the standings. And then we made the trade deadline trade for Bogey, OG, Precious, Alec Burks. We gave up Barrett and Quickly. Shout out to you two. After the trade, and we see how OG Anunoby is playing, we know that the ceiling of this team is raised. But then, of course, when something positive happened, we have something negative that happened. Julius Randle goes down with an injury. And I should have prefaced by saying Mitchell Robinson went out with an ankle injury. And I want to say like early to mid-December. And then OG Anunoby went out with an injury, which caused him to miss, I believe like 3 weeks. Yesterday, he played his first game back. So we always love to see that. So OG Anunoby is back in the lineup. But you can say that this season has been riddled with injuries. Brunson was out for a few games as well. Dante has been out for a few games. So we've been able to keep our head above water. And you got to give some credit to Coach Tibbs, being able to implement the system that he wants with the players that he has. Again, Brunson, Randall, Dante, OG, Mitchell Robinson being out for most of the season. These are all players that Coach Tibbs didn't have on a consistent basis. So again, like I said, you got to give some credit to Coach Tibbs for being able to put his players in the best position possible and just maximizing the talent that he has. But now that we got OG back, he's had the surgery, and one of the quotes he said that it feels a lot more better than when it was in January, and only time will tell of how much better it'll get. But he played really well yesterday, so now OG's back in the lineup. Great. And we're missing Randall. The reports about Randall is still coming out that he's still treading lightly with his rehab and his therapy. He's still trying to decide if he's ultimately going to need surgery, but signs are pointing to that he's going to play through it. And Mitchell Robinson is probably going to come back towards the end of the season, right before the playoffs. So it's going to be kind of hard to gauge Coach Tibbs this season because, yeah, is he going to have his players? If Randall doesn't get surgery, is he going to have his players? Absolutely. But he's not going to have his players at full ability. Randall's going to be playing through an injury. Mitchell Robinson is coming back right before the playoffs, so he's still going to have to get his timing down. He's still going to have to get his conditioning, his stamina. He's going to have to get his feel back into the offense. All of that takes time. And in the playoffs, the one thing that you don't really have a lot of is time. The first team to 4 wins moves on to the next round. And of course, every round can be extended to 7 games where it's win or go home. So it's kind of hard to gauge how Coach Tibbs is going to be looked at the end of this season. If we get past the first round, of course, that's great. But off of what we've seen from last season, getting into the second round, taking Miami to 6 games, are we going to be happy with the second round exit? Or by now, as Knicks fans, are we expecting an Eastern Conference Finals appearance? I keep saying it's hard to gauge it because if everybody was at full strength, I 100% believe that we could be in the Eastern Conference Finals. But with Randall playing through injury, Mitchell Robinson, when he comes back, he's going to have to play through all this stuff. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to end up. And then how are we going to look at Coach Tibbs? If Randall plays and Mitchell Robinson plays, are we just throwing all the excuses out the window for Coach Tibbs? Or are we giving him a little bit of leeway? That's something that I'm not going to be able to answer until the end of the season whenever the Knicks do get eliminated. Hopefully, it takes a while for them to get eliminated. But now that I gave my Coach Tibbs rant, what I want to talk about the other Knicks coaches that are on this list. Just to look at the list one more time, we got the GOAT Knick coach, Red Holtzman. He coached the Knicks for 1,096 games, winning 613 of them and a win percentage of 55%. Van Gundy comes in third with 420 games, winning 248 of them and a winning percentage of 59. Pat Riley coaching 328, winning 223 of them with a winning percentage of 68. Mike D'Antoni, those I consider the dark years for the New York Knicks, coaching 288 of them. He didn't reach the 300, and he won 121 of those games with a winning percentage of 42%. Mike Woodson, who I believe does not get enough credit for leading the Knicks to the first playoff appearance that they had in about a decade when they had that team with Melo, JR, Tyson Chandler, Jason Kidd, Iman Shumpert. He coached 188 games, which I think is a travesty, and he won 109 of those with a winning percentage of 58%. But I want to talk about one coach in particular because this was the coach that I grew up on. This was the coach that was associated with Patrick Ewing, and I'm talking about Jeff Van Gundy. So Jeff Van Gundy started coaching the Knicks in the 94-95 season, where he led the Knicks past the first round against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And in those times, in the first round, you only had to win 3 games. So they actually won the series 3-1. Then they moved on to the next round and they faced the Indiana Pacers in the second round of the playoffs, and we ended up losing in 7 games. And of course, the rivalry between Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks at that time was at its height. So in Jeff Van Gundy's first season, he led the Knicks to the second round of the playoffs, all the way up to a Game 7. In his second season, in the 95-96 season, in the first round, we again faced the Cleveland Cavaliers. This season is still in the first round. You have to get to 3 wins, and we were able to get past the Cleveland Cavaliers in 3 games. So we swept them in the first round. In the second round, we faced the Chicago Bulls. And in the second round, we ended up losing in 5 games. In Jeff Van Gundy's third season, the first round, we faced the Charlotte Hornets, which again, we were able to sweep them, winning the series in 3 games. So it's a 3-0 sweep against the Charlotte Hornets. And in the second round, once again, we lost in a Game 7, but this time to the Miami Heat. In the 98-97 season, in the first round, we actually faced the Miami Heat. And in the first round, we were able to beat the Miami Heat in 5 games. And in the second round, once again, we faced off against the Indiana Pacers. And this time around, we ended up losing in 5 games to the Indiana Pacers. So again, Jeff Van Gundy, again, consistently is leading us to the second round of the playoffs. But for the second time, we end up losing the series in 5 games. In the 98-99 season, this is the lockout season. The first round, we were able to get past the Miami Heat, which I believe this is the season where this is the playoff series that Allen Houston hit that infamous game-winning bucket where it bounced off the front of the rim and hit the backboard and then went inside. And then he ran across into the other side of the court and he just did a really big fist pump. So past the first round, past Miami Heat. Second round, we sweep the Atlanta Hawks in 4 games. The third round in the Eastern Conference Finals, we faced off against the Indiana Pacers and Reggie Miller once again, and we end up winning the series in 6 games, which leads us into the NBA Finals, which we're going up against a David Robinson, an Avery Johnson, a Sean Elliott, and of course, I believe it's Tim Duncan's rookie year or his second season. But we end up losing the series in 5 games. I mean, I think it's fair to say that we were one of the teams that, lucked out with the lockout. We had a lot of young talent. We also had a mix of good veteran leaders. That team was Marcus Camby, Larry Johnson, Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston, Charlie Ward, I believe. So it was a good mix of young talent and veterans. And I also should note that Patrick Ewing went out with an injury. I believe it might have been like a hand injury. But there's been a lot of speculation as to that's the reason why the Knicks were able to go far, because they depended on their young talent. So Patrick Ewing was kind of holding them back. But hey, we went to the finals. We lost. It's Tim Duncan, who doesn't get enough respect as going down as one of the better players. He should be in a top 10 conversation every single time, but his name always gets overlooked because his game was always overboring. The following season, the 99-2000 season, Jeff Van Gundy is his second to last season. In the first round, we get past the Toronto Raptors in a sweep, in a 3-game sweep. The following round, we go up against, of course, the Miami Heat. And in this series, we end up getting past the Miami Heat in 7 games. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, we once again go up against Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers. Now, this is the season where Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers, they actually go on to play the Los Angeles Lakers in the finals, where they ended up losing. I believe it was in 6 games. So obviously, they get past the New York Knicks in this round. And the Knicks put up a good fight, but we lost in 6 games. Now, the 2000-2001 season, which is Jeff Van Gundy's last season, unfortunately. This season, he did lead the New York Knicks into the playoffs, but unfortunately, we ended up losing in the first round to the Toronto Raptors, and we ended up losing in 5 games. And I only chose to focus on Jeff Van Gundy. The only other coach that I was debating, talking about, was Pat Riley. But of course, Pat Riley made us a promise that he did not keep, and he left the New York Knicks to go to the Miami Heat. So I don't want to break my heart again. I'm not even going to talk about that. Maybe in another video. But that's why I focus on Jeff Van Gundy. And after talking about Jeff Van Gundy and seeing the legacy that he left when he was the head coach of the New York Knicks for all that time, I'm wondering how long Coach Tibbs is going to coach the New York Knicks, because there's also the talk of how far can a Coach Thibodeau-led team go. The furthest that we've seen him go is the Eastern Conference Finals with Derrick Rose and the Chicago Bulls. They had Joakim Noah, they had Carlos Boozer, they had Luol Deng. Derrick Rose, they ended up losing to Miami Heat, I believe, in 5 games. That was the season right before Derrick Rose tore his meniscus, and then his career kind of went down. But he ended up winning MVP that season. But every other coaching stint that Coach Thibodeau had, the remainder of the Chicago years, he had, I believe, 2 seasons in Minnesota. And then from Minnesota, he came here to the Knicks. Every stint that he's had, he hasn't had the same success that he had in Chicago. So he only has one example that we can point to where we can say, oh, okay, this guy might be able to take you to the promised land. I'm not sure how I feel about Coach Thibodeau being his 4th season as the New York Knicks head coach. And Chris and I, we talk about it. we have up and down moments with Coach Tibbs. Sometimes we feel like, yeah, this guy can do it. Sometimes we feel like, I don't think this guy's going to be the one to lead us to the promised land. And when I say promised land, I mean getting us to the NBA Finals and winning an NBA Finals. Now, I'm not saying that us getting to the finals and winning the NBA Finals is going to happen this season, because obviously the East, we got Boston, we got Milwaukee, we got Cleveland, who can't really be slept on. And of course, we got Miami Heat, which I'm going to start calling the Michael Myers, because they basically, whenever you feel like they're dead, they're going to keep popping up. But only time will tell. But guys, I want to say thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you for going down memory lane with me and looking at Jeff Van Gundy's history with the New York Knicks. But leave it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about Coach Tibbs' milestone that he had with the Knicks. And also let me know what you guys think as far as right now, this moment. Where does Coach Tibbs rank within the New York Knicks coaching legacy? Again, Pat Riley, Jeff Van Gundy, both of them did lead us to an NBA Finals appearance. The lockout season, I don't know how high you hold that in regard. The Pat Riley, Houston Rockets NBA Finals appearance, obviously that's going to be up there. But also you got to talk about Red Holtzman, who has won NBA championships. So Coach Tibbs, he still has a lot to prove. But I definitely want to hear from you guys, and I want to see where your basketball brain is at. I want to see where you rank Coach Tibbs in the Knicks coaching legacy. But guys, until next time, thank you for checking out this video. You know the drill. You know the vibes. Jalen Brunson for all the MVPs. Taj Gibson, even though he's a Detroit Piston, is still for president. And we out. Peace.